So tonight, drum roll, please. Drum roll. Oh, see, when I talk about budgets, that's our drummer. We're going to play Stuart's favorite songs from his favorite artist. You can get a little insight into what he listened to. And our first artist is an up-and-coming young singer. She grew up in Lloydminster. Do you know Lloydminster? It's in Saskatchewan, and it's also in Alberta. There's a line running right down the middle of Lloydminster, and half of it is in Alberta and half is in Saskatchewan. I mean, Stuart loved it because Alberta was an hour behind, so he could actually go out the back door. He'd have an hour more to wait for sound check. And the deal is there. I cleared it with Colleen. She said, "Oh yeah." I said, "I heard that if you go out your front door, then you're in Saskatchewan. You vote in Saskatchewan. If you go out your back door, you're in Alberta. You got to vote with." That's how crazy it is. There are houses in Lloydminster that are half and half. Like, really? If you fall asleep in the back, and they got different laws about everything: driving, drinking, voting, everything. So, and they're an hour different because Saskatchewan does not turn their clocks back or forward. Smart. Anyway, her name is Colleen Brown. Her project right now is a band called Major Love, and she's going to sing a song by Sting. Colleen Brown.
Will you stay with me? Will you be my love among the fields of barley, on the jealous sky in a fallen arm, and we look in fields of gold? I never made promises lightly. There have been those that I have broken, but I swear that in the days still left, we will walk in fields of gold. We will walk in fields of gold.
She knocked my socks off. Always. First time I heard her, she knocked my socks. In the very early years of the Vinyl Cafe touring show, Stuart was the storyteller, and Chris Whiteley and I were the music between the stories. And his stories were all about 7 or 8 minutes in those days. And we three pioneers, it felt like we were pioneers, we loaded up a van, crisscrossed Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan in a small van, packed with the Vinyl Cafe backdrop, a 20s style tube radio, I should say a small table, instruments, a lamp, no chair, but a suitcase, instruments, and us. But before we left on the tour, we warmed up with a show in Lassman Square in North York. Mel Lassman was a big guy in Toronto politics. But they set up this festival. It was set in 3 giant white tents. I mean, it was just amazing. And the deal was you'd walk between the tents, just sort of cruise back and forth, and so you'd only stay in one tent for about 3 minutes at a time, which drove Stuart nuts because he was reading 7 or 8 minute stories, and they would come in the middle and leave in the middle, and he kept looking back at me. What the? I said, it's just what it is, But we finally got an audience to sit down, and he finally had his audience for the full story. And this woman stood up. She was probably maybe mid to late 70s. She just stands up in the middle of the story. She says, "Stuart, are you related to Jimmy Stewart?" Yeah, that was kind of the, half of them laughed and half of them went, "What?" And he said, "Well, no, why?" She said, "Well, you got the same name." So he looks at me and he goes, "Well, same name, but different spelling." And they laughed, and he turned around. He's like this big grin on his face. I'm thinking, yeah, he got his first big ad lib laugh. Now he's hooked. He turned into a ham bone. From then on, officially Stuart McLean ham bone. But he had a great time. Those tours were dues-paying time for us, especially Stuart, because Chris Whiteley and I had already been touring for 20 years before we even met him. But Stuart was as green as a blade of grass. He was as green as Julian Fantino's Grow Up. He was green, baby. That's what he would have said. That was great. Yeah. So I had to. He learned the rules of live theater intimately, though, so he could, later disregard them intimately. But those shows were fun because they're really seat of your pants. We never figured anything. Chris and I took maybe 2 minutes to decide all the 5 or 6 songs we were going to do, and just about before we went on. And there were about 100 seats. They were usually school auditoriums, sometimes churches, school classrooms, whatever, 100 seats. And some of these towns were friendly little prairie diamonds. And some of those towns, let's just say there was a lot of very, very close families.
Look at this world, I can't believe that it's still happening. They drill it in our heads that it is crappening. We must be doing something right. It's always been the same. The sunshine feeds the world with its light. The people strive to grow with all their might. Together we'll be new.
Different. He was, a very nice man, humble man. This is a guy that you could come up to him on the street and go, Stuart, I just absolutely love your show. Could you sign this? And could you sign this seat? And he would do it. He would just stand there and he'd talk to you. He would stretch it out for 5 minutes. If he was eating dinner, he would say, sorry to interrupt your dinner, Stuart, but could you just, say hello to my husband? He's like, he'll never believe it. And Stuart would say, well, hi. What's your husband's name? Hi, Jim. Who does that? Nobody does it. Stuart did it. He was a very humble guy. But he was also an honorary colonel in the Canadian Forces for years. Yeah, we had to salute him every time we go. There was this thing. Randy Bachman named his show Vinyl Tap, and somebody asked him on the air. They said, so did you check with Stuart McLean? Like, really, is he okay with this? And Randy said, oh, yeah, I asked. I got a total blessing. Well, Stuart saw that. He said, I never gave him my blessing. He never asked me. I would have said no. And, we really liked Randy Bachman because we did a taping show with him in Surrey, BC, and he was just the perfect gentleman. He was like a professional. He was just, low-key guy, did a 5-minute sound check. He was the nicest guy. So Stuart's like, I want to like him, damn it. What's the Vinyl Tap thing? He never really did get over that. Stuart was an avid golfer, and his thing is he would get out on the tee, make a pretty good tee shot. He'd get like 150 or 120 yards down. But he took his mulligans wherever he wanted to. You're only allowed a mulligan off the tee, right? When you hit that shot and it goes 3 feet, this way, it hits a tree and hits the neighbor behind. He would take his mullies from the fairway, and he'd take 2 or 3. And you could see these guys back on the tee behind us, 120 yards back. He learned to play ukulele. When Stuart picked up a new thing, he was into it 150%. You should not. He was just like riveted on this. So he picked up the ukulele, got the books, he got the best ukulele you could buy, the films, And we had this guy, this singer in our show, and he said, Stuart, okay, you're driving along and you see a ukulele and a banjo on the road. Which one do you run over? And Stuart was, well, I don't know. Well, you run over the ukulele. I mean, duty before pleasure. And he sort of looked at him, oh, that's funny. They never hired him again. Never saw him again. She sings, I think she did a show here with the Classic Albums Live, right? So, and you were doing
we did
Rumors?
The Last Waltz.
Last Waltz.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Anybody see that? Okay, then. I knew I went one question too many.
Night, I drew a map of Canada, oh Canada, with your face sketched on it twice. Oh, is so bitter, bitter and so sweet. Oh, I could drink a case of you, darling, and I would still be on my feet, or I would still be on my feet. I've done it all, baby.
She's done it all. We're going to finish with a song by a guy that Stuart really liked, Ray Charles. And this is called Hit the Road, Jack. And we'll take a short break and see you in a bit.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. What you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Come on, baby. What you say?
Oh woman, don't you treat me so mean. You're the meanest of woman that I've ever seen. I guess if you say so, I'm gonna have to back my things
Mary
down.
Turlington, of course, and he took great delight in, like terrorizing her, really. And I never figured out whether it was Dave. There was somebody in Stuart's life that was a Mary Turlington. He always denied it, but you just don't get that kind of, you really have to know a Mary Turlington to think up those ways to torment her. But of course, everybody's favorite story, Dave cooks the turkey. Stuart, I know. Stuart would get requests for, sometimes he would say, well, anybody want, is a story they want, you want to hear that I haven't told for a while? And it would be a resounding, tell the turkey story. Oh, I'm not going to tell the turkey story, damn it. The Kingston Grand Theatre was a great place, and this balcony was pretty close to the stage. And we did this one Christmas show there, and every time Stuart paused for a second, you'd hear this, gobble, gobble. And he would go, and Dave, and then he walked out, and he says, gobble, gobble. What? Finally, I had spotted this woman. I see her up in the balcony. She's leaning over, gobble, gobble. And he says, why do you keep gobbling at me? She says, tell the turkey story. He did not tell the turkey story.
I love you so, I always will. And in your voice I hear a choir of carousels. Oh, but am I ever gonna hear my wedding bells? Wedding bells.
Okay, I got some ideas, I lied. And I sat there, I think, what the hell am I going to do? And then Jess phoned me about, 10 minutes later. She said, John. No, she didn't sound like that. This is what happens, when you do Stuart. Everybody sounds like Stuart, So I'm like, Dennis, we got a live one here. And he's got this backpack on, so he does the Vanna White thing, But he starts dancing because, he's just so excited, and he starts dancing, he starts going backwards. And he's like, yeah. And you could tell this backpack had got him, and he was going over, and Stuart's like, and the whole audience going, oh no! And he goes back, but lands on the backpack. And then he looked like, like a turtle, but his arms, and he couldn't move. Finally, he kicks himself on his side, gets up again, and he does the Rocky thing. I'm good. So this happens again about 30 seconds later. He starts dancing again. And Martha Stewart's like, maybe it's better if you don't dance. Evan's like, I'm good. Goes over. This time, Stuart just watches him. He says, he's good. He gets up and he says, by the way, Evan, what have you got in that backpack? What do you got there, iron bars? No, he says, I got all of my marbles. And how many marbles is that? I got exactly 500 marbles. I'll show you. No, it's okay. You don't have to. No, I'll show you. No, please don't. And he's taking the thing off, and of course it goes upside down. 500 marbles come out. There are marbles everywhere, and the stage crew is looking at us like. And the kid is rapid, he's running, he's trying to get all these marbles and stick them back in his back. And the show was pretty well over. Stuart didn't know what to do. He's looking at Jess. Jess, tell me what to do. She said, you're on your own. You picked him. Anyway, that's, we'll be back soon as we get the marbles cleaned. And he sort of left the stage. And Evan stayed there for the next 10 minutes picking up marbles. 500 marbles, anyway. She was probably in her 80s. And she came up on stage. And Stuart said, there's about half a bottle. Stuart says, yeah, it's she's like, mm-hmm. And she grabs the bottle from him and chugs the whole thing. Just stands there like this. And the audience was just horrified. They didn't know. I mean, they said, do you think it's whiskey? Oh my God. This woman was only about 90 pounds soaking wet. And almost 90. And she's like, I said, Stuart, this is not all right. And anyway, there was not one laugh. It was supposed to be getting laughs. No, all it got was horror. So we got in there, and the kid whistles Eine kleine Nachtmusik. What he didn't tell us is that he whistles it about 3 octaves higher than most humans can hear. It was completely out of the range of human hearing. We had a lot of dogs at the steps of the Aurelia Opera House. I said, Stuart, the Whistler probably should be a one-off. Beautiful concert in Halifax. And, they used to put the lighters. We were doing that John Lennon song. And so this is Christmas, for the Happy New Year. And instead of the lighters, of course, everybody had their cell phones. So he had like 4,500 cell phones lighting up like this. And Stuart was just, he was in heaven. This was his big moment. So we all felt great. He finally got his rock show. Anyway.
For people and things that went before, I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I loved you more. In my life, I love you more. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. I'm leaning on the everlasting
Thank you.
Thank you.
Long and prosper. Thank you.